This video is a non-sponsored collaboration between myself, Unit 522, and historyandheadlines.com. To see the article version of this video and more just like it, click the link down below. On June 5, 1981, the CDC's Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report reported on 5 cases of a rare form of pneumonia, a form only seen in people with compromised immune systems. These were the first documented cases of AIDS. Many diseases, accidents, and even intentional acts of other people result in horrible deaths. Here we list 10 of those horrible ways to die.
About 400,000 people a year die from drowning, not even including natural disasters. Much like the other causes of death listed here, drowning is a terrifying and uncomfortable way to die. So deeply ingrained is the fear of drowning that waterboarding is used as a form of torture. It is done by positioning a person with their head low so water cannot flow into the lungs. Their nose and mouth is then covered with a towel and water is poured on their face. In almost all people, this results in immediate panic and intense discomfort. If the person drowning is conscious, the terror that is experienced may well be greater than any other death.
Although it is possible to die from the bite of a non-poisonous snake due to infection, we mean the bite of a poisonous snake. As many as 125,000 people a year die from snake bites, and those that die do not die happy. Usually accompanied by tremendous fear, pain, nausea, and vomiting, snake venom can also cause bleeding from the eyes, nose, mouth, and wounds that have previously healed. Often causing necrosis of the flesh, the area surrounding the bite swells, discolors, and rots away, with the area affected growing until gangrene sets in and the victim dies. Blindness, suffocation, kidney failure, and muscles throughout the body beginning to break down can also be symptoms. Treatment is complicated by having to properly identify the snake that bit the victim, which is often not easy if the snake left the scene. If antivenom for that type of poison is available and administered, there is an excellent chance that the person will live.
More correctly known as necrotizing fasciitis, this horrifying problem can be caused by a variety of bacteria, such as staph or strep, usually a combination of microbes. Often contracted while in a hospital for surgery or treatment of an injury, people with weakened immune systems are the most at risk, such as diabetics, cancer victims, etc. Mortality rates among untreated people can be as high as 73%. As the flesh of the victim rots away, it creates horrible disfigurements, often resulting in exposed, infected tissue. The symptoms are most unpleasant, including fever, pain, vomiting, diarrhea, and general miserable illness. A severe form of this disease called MRSA can be contracted from sewage, especially in hospitals. Sometimes massive doses of promptly administered antibiotics can effectively treat the problem, but strains of pathogens resistant to the antibodies can complicate and prolong treatment.
About 90% fatal, this disease was not discovered until 1976, and it kills just under 1,000 people per year. Those unfortunates die a horrible death, experiencing severe headache, fever, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and uncontrolled bleeding. Plus, victims die with the knowledge that there is no treatment and no cure, although scientists are working on developing a vaccine.
Not to be confused with the album by Radiohead, this painful condition is also known as decompression sickness or casein disease. The condition develops from rapid decompression of people usually deep diving, but can also be experienced by flying at high altitudes without pressurization, or spending time outside of a spacecraft in a suit that hasn't been pressurized. What happens is dissolved gases in the blood bubble out when a person decompresses too quickly, resulting in horrific pains in the joints, causing the body to contort and writhe, hence the bends. This often results in paralysis or death. The only treatment is to place the victim in a hyperbaric or recompression chamber and slowly reduce the pressure to normal atmospheric levels. Since the gas bubbles can develop anywhere in the body, the skin can be affected with rashes and bubbles. The blood flow can be disrupted, resulting in tissue death. The brain or spine could develop severe pain and disruption, and the lungs can be damaged, causing coughing and the loss of the ability to breathe properly.
Sometimes used as a form of execution, sometimes used by nature to feed its predators. Undoubtedly, over the millennia, millions of people have been devoured by lions, tigers, bears, sharks, wolves, crocodiles, alligators, piranhas, and a host of other hungry critters. The horror of watching, feeling, and hearing animals crunch through your bones while they gobble your flesh must be terrible indeed. Being part of the food chain is not so good unless you're at the absolute top, especially when the eaters do not take time to humanely kill you first.
Not just some sort of joke, King Edward II of England is said to have been murdered at the behest of his wife and her lover by just this method, which would have the benefit of inflicting horrible and painful death without affecting the external appearance of the body.
Probably not the sort of thing that happens accidentally, this was a method of execution reportedly used by Romans and Spaniards among others. Some people executed this way include Valerian, Crassus, and Manius Achilles. Research indicates that the hot metal would likely build up steam so quickly that internal organs would actually burst.
This little gem, also known as Naegleria fowleri, lives in warm fresh water, usually well above 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and thankfully killing humans is fairly unusual. Humans that do get the parasite by getting water up the nose die at a rate of 95%. In the United States, this means the Deep South, although in 2010, a 7-year-old girl in Minnesota contracted the parasite and died. This startling development means the parasite is moving much farther north than previously reported, by over 500 miles, perhaps due to global warming. About 121 Americans have died from this horrible little monster since 1937, including 2 people in Louisiana that got it from local tap water, introduced up their noses by use of a neti pot. Symptoms include change in taste and smell, nausea, headaches, confusion, fever, vomiting, hallucinations, among others. Death occurs within a week or 2.
Known medically as Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, this is the human form of mad cow. Caused by a bizarre malformed protein called a prion, this disease causes the brain to develop spongy-like holes in it like that of Swiss cheese. Dementia, memory loss, blindness, seizures, confusion, and death within 6 months is usual, although at times the victim suffers for a year or more. Eating infected animals, especially the brains or brain-related parts, can transmit the disease. Terrifyingly, the disease can also be contracted through genetic mutation or by surgical-type introduction of contaminated tissue, such as blood transfusion, corneal implant, or taking human growth hormone harvested from infected victims. It is an unimaginably horrible way to die and devastating for families to witness. There is no treatment and no cure. So that's it for today's list. Again, don't forget to check out historyandheadlines.com, and I also want to give a huge thank you to Unit 522 for helping me out with this one.